You ever been so mad you could taste copper? That was me, standing in the walk-in freezer of Doris's diner with a fistful of biscuit dough, trying to breathe through the betrayal that had just sucker-punched me in the throat. My name is Dina Walker. I'm 33, black, and I live in Columbia, South Carolina. I've been busting my behind waitressing since I was 19, slinging hash and refilling coffee for folks who still call me darlin' like it's a compliment and not a substitute for learning my damn name. But through all that, my one slice of peace? Baking. Not just your Pillsbury-type baking, either. I'm talking soul-infused, Southern-rooted, grandmother-taught magic. My bourbon peach crumble could settle family feuds. My pecan praline bread pudding has had grown men propose marriage in parking lots. That's not an exaggeration. I got the text receipts. So when Keith, my then boyfriend, now walking garbage disposal, started talking about starting a food truck, I thought, this is it. This is how we climb out. He'd been laid off from his third HVAC job in 2 years, but he had ideas. Charisma. He could talk his way out of a bear trap with a smile and a Bible quote. And he said we'd build something together. He said, "Baby, you're the magic. I just want to help you shine." So I gave him everything. Not just my time and my recipes, but the notebook. The notebook. My dog-eared, butter-stained, family heirloom of a book that held decades of my grandma's and mama's secrets. Handwritten with little notes in the margins like cut back on sugar if using ripe fruit, and don't trust the store-bought vanilla if Missy at church made it. That kind of sacred knowledge. He said he was gonna start doing the legwork, permits, finding a food truck, figuring out social media. I'd keep working to float us for a bit. I didn't mind. I was used to carrying weight. Then one Sunday, after pulling a double and getting my big toe stomped on by a kid wearing light-up Crocs, I finally got to sit on my couch, crack open a hard cider, and doom scroll. That's when I saw it. Pie Kingdom. Logo. A cartoon crown sitting on a peach pie. Location. A shiny blue truck parked on Devine Street, 5 minutes from our apartment. Menu. Bourbon peach crumble, sweet tea lemon chess, Carolina banana butter bars. I clicked the link to the business page. And there he was, Keith, in a backwards snapback, holding a damn pastry brush like it was Excalibur. His arm around a woman named Tiffany, a blonde whose Instagram I remembered just enough to know she'd been commenting flame emojis on his gym selfies for months. I blinked. Refreshed the page. Still there. Still my work. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked outside, sat on the steps, and stared out at the street like the answers might roll up in a food truck of their own. Instead, I opened my phone and typed in South Carolina food vendor laws like a woman possessed. Turns out, in this state, there's no copyright protection for recipes. Not unless you're packaging them, publishing them, or unless there's a trade secret involved and documented. But it was still my damn pie, and that night, sitting there in the humid southern dark, I realized I'd been baking the wrong kind of heat. It was time to cook up something real. Revenge. There's a kind of heartbreak that don't hit you all at once. Not like in movies where the woman clutches her chest, sinks to the kitchen floor, mascara streaking like a raccoon in the rain. No. Real betrayal, it simmers. It creeps in like humidity, thickening the air in your lungs until you can't breathe without swallowing rage. I didn't go nuclear. I went quiet. The kind of quiet that makes Southern women dangerous. The next day, I called Keith. Calm. Measured. "Hey baby," I said, teeth clenched like a vice, saw Pie Kingdom online. Looks real nice. He didn't miss a beat. Didn't apologize. Didn't stutter. Just chuckled, all nonchalant, and said, "Yeah, I was gonna tell you." "You were gonna tell me?" "Yeah, you've been so busy at the diner. I didn't want to stress you out. But I had to move quick, you know? Tiffany had a lead on the truck and a friend who designs logos, so we just jumped. I swear to God I had to bite my tongue before I let loose every cuss word my grandmama warned me never to say in mixed company. I tried to keep my voice even. You used my recipes, Keith. Our recipes, he said. You gave them to me. You said we were building something together. No, I said I wanted to build something with you. Not have you run off with the blueprints and the blonde. That's when he got nasty. Come on, Dina, he said, voice thick with condescension. You're great at ideas, sure. But Tiffany? She gets shit done. She's organized. She's helping with contracts and branding and stuff you're not exactly an expert in. Y'all, I have never wanted to reach through a phone and snatch a man bald more in my life. Instead, I hung up and stared at my reflection in the diner's cracked bathroom mirror. My apron was stained, my curls pulled back in a frizzy puff, flour dusted into my fingernails. I looked like someone who'd been really trying, to make something from nothing. And here he was, taking my nothing and turning it into his something, while I stood on the sidelines holding the measuring cups. I told a couple of friends what happened. One of them blinked, then said, "Girl, that's just how business goes. Let it go. Take it as a lesson. Let it go? Let it go?" He stole my grandma's pie. He took my legacy, slapped a price tag on it, and stood next to Tiffany like she'd been at my side in the kitchen all those nights I worked on that bourbon reduction glaze until it didn't taste like cough syrup. Let it go? No, baby. I didn't bake for years just to be left on the side of the road watching someone else sell my soul in a cardboard pastry box. If Pie Kingdom was going to become a food empire, they were going to learn what it meant to crown a queen without checking if she bites. And me? I was about to start sharpening my teeth. The week after the betrayal, I floated through my shifts at Doris's like a ghost with good posture. You ever show up to work so mad you can't even be mad anymore? That was me. I was taking orders, smiling on autopilot, while inside I was constructing elaborate revenge fantasies involving lawsuits, bats of hot caramel, and maybe a little accidental arson. Southern Baptist guilt kept me from that last one. I saw Pie Kingdom's truck everywhere. Outside breweries. Farmers markets. Once, on the corner of Hardin Street, across from the old gas station, bold as hell under a banner that read home of the original Carolina butter bars. Original, my ass. The worst part? People love them. 5-star reviews started stacking up online. Such a unique fusion of Southern flavor and modern flair. Best bourbon peach anything I've ever had. Try the banana butter bars. Absolutely genius. Yeah, genius stolen from a tired waitress who used to stay up till 3 a.m. scribbling in a stained notebook while her boyfriend snored on the couch with his mouth open like a dead fish. I went over to my cousin Leona's house that Saturday night and laid it all out for her. She's 10 years older, runs her own cleaning business, and has that kind of wisdom that comes from surviving 2 divorces and a lightning strike. No joke, real lightning. You can't argue with a woman who's been electrocuted and lived. After I finished telling her everything, she sat back, sipped her sweet tea, and said, "So what you gonna do about it, baby?" I blinked. "I don't know. He already did it." She leaned forward, voice low like she was passing a sacred spell. "Then do it better. Better. Open your own truck. Show up. Outsell him. Outbake him. You've got the recipes and the damn fire. Tiffany can't touch that with all the social media filters in the world." I laughed, half drunk on righteous fury and half terrified. "Leona, I got maybe $700 to my name. A truck? Permits? Kitchen space? I'm broke." She waved her hand like I'd insulted her personally. "I got a friend who runs a commissary kitchen down by Bluff Road. Owes me a favor. And I still got that old trailer from when I tried that mobile cleaning unit idea, remember? You give me a couple days, I'll get you a legal place to bake and wheels to haul it." That trailer was rusted. The tires looked like they hadn't seen air since Obama's first term. But to me, It looked like hope on four wheels. That night, I opened my recipe notebook for the first time since Keith took it. I flipped past the pie pages, past the bread pudding, past the banana bars. Then I turned to the back. The pages marked experimental. And I started baking. In borrowed kitchens. In the dead of night. With fire in my belly and powdered sugar on my sleeves. I wasn't just making desserts anymore. I was making a reckoning. You can learn a lot about a person when you tell them you're about to rise from the ashes. Some will hand you a bucket of water and say, "Be careful, don't burn yourself again." Others will hand you a lighter and ask, "Were we starting first?" Leona was in the second category. She showed up 2 days later with a pair of overalls, a box of vinyl gloves, and the ugliest food trailer I have ever laid eyes on. I mean, this thing looked like a meth lab on wheels. Rust, peeling decals from someone's failed taco venture, and a fridge that hummed like it was possessed. But it was mine. We gutted it, scrubbed it, painted it a soft matte cream, added rose gold trim, and stenciled a name across the side in big cursive letters. Sweet Deliverance. Because I wasn't just selling desserts, I was offering salvation. The permits came next. Leona's friend at the commissary kitchen got me in for pennies. I took the South Carolina DHEC food safety class online, passed with flying colors, and got a license that Keith had apparently skipped. I kept that little gem in my back pocket. I started selling out of a church parking lot. The pastor gave me Saturday mornings in exchange for some leftover chocolate pecan cookies and a promise I wouldn't block the overflow lot. My first week, I made $312. My second, $457. Not bad for a busted trailer with no social media and a folding chalkboard sign I wrote on with my niece's sidewalk chalk. I kept it simple. Menu rotated weekly. Small batches, fresh every morning. I used handwritten labels, brown paper boxes, and little thank you cards with a quote from my grandma. Don't bake for applause. Bake for the soul. People came back. Then they brought friends. Then they brought their grannies. I didn't advertise. I didn't chase influencers. I let the food speak. My sweet potato chess pie started a whole debate online about whether it beat out the legendary Ms. Geraldine's down in Charleston. Keith, of course, noticed. I found out because he sent me a text one Friday night. "You trying to compete with me now?" Cute. Then, 2 minutes later, "You know you wouldn't be baking if it weren't for me." Then nothing. But I heard through the grapevine, aka Leona's cousin's daughter's man, that Keith wasn't happy. Said I was stealing his audience. Claimed I was copying his brand energy. Brand energy? Boy, please. You can't steal what you stole in the first place. I kept my head down. My hands busy. My oven full. Because the thing about quiet success is, it lulls the enemy. Makes them think you're small. Invisible. Nothing to worry about. Then one day, you show up to the same food truck rally they're headlining. And you park right next to them. That's when the real fun begins. I didn't plan to park next to them. That was the universe. Or karma. Or maybe God himself, sipping sweet tea on a porch somewhere and deciding today was a good day for a little theater. The Saturday market on Bull Street was the biggest monthly food truck rally in Columbia. Hundreds of people. Live music, local news coverage, and every flavor of entrepreneur from craft beer bros to dreadlocked vegans selling kale wraps out of solar-powered vans. Sweet Deliverance had finally qualified for a vendor slot. I was hyped, nervous, wearing my lucky apron, the one with the faint jelly stain shaped like Florida, and praying I wouldn't run out of peach filling too early. Leona had helped me prep for 72 hours straight. For pies, 3 bars, 2 puddings, and a tray of my newest test run, red velvet cheesecake bites with brown sugar pecan crusts. We rolled in at 7:30 a.m., still foggy with dew and coffee breath. I gave my name to the coordinator, who pointed us to spot 42. We turned the corner, and there it was. Spot 41, Pie Kingdom. Keith's truck gleamed like a damn Macy's Thanksgiving Day float. Chrome wheels, string lights, two folding tables with branded banners, and Tiffany already snapping selfies in front of a display of mini pies she probably didn't even know how to spell, much less bake. I swear I heard a record scratch in my soul. Keith looked up from where he was arranging boxes of merch, Pie Kingdom, oven mitts, and branded spatulas, I kid you not, and froze when he saw me and Leona pulling up. I kept my eyes on the spot, didn't flinch, didn't wave, just parked. He walked over. Fake grin. Sunglasses on his forehead, like some kind of bakery dish-a-bag. Well damn, Dina, he said. Didn't expect to see you here. Guess you finally found a way to ride my coattails. I smiled, slow and sweet like molasses. Oh, honey, I ain't riding anything of yours anymore. Tiffany appeared behind him in a matching branded apron, holding a ring light. She blinked at me, then did that tight-lipped white girl smirk. Cute setup. A little rustic, huh? Leona, bless her, snorted so hard she choked on her water bottle. You'd be amazed what you can do with heart and actual talent, I said, already opening the side panel of my truck. I didn't engage beyond that. I didn't need to. By 9:30, my line stretched past 3 trucks. People were coming back for seconds. Asking about the chess pie. Asking where I got my crust so flaky. I handed out tiny samples of the cheesecake bites in recycled sauce cups. One customer moaned loud enough I thought we'd need to call a medic. Keith's line? A few folks. Mostly first-timers. I heard one guy mutter, that bourbon peach thing's dry as hell. Tiffany kept refreshing their Square app like the numbers might magically improve. By noon, Sweet Deliverance had sold out of 3 items. Keith still had full stacks. The cherry on top? One of the rally organizers came over and asked me if I'd be interested in a permanent Saturday slot. While Pie Kingdom stood 10 feet away, slowly collapsing under the weight of its own mediocrity. It was the first time in weeks I breathed without feeling like I owed the world an apology. And baby, it tasted better than anything I'd ever baked. They say the truth will set you free, but I've learned it also clears a path when you aim it right. After the food truck rally, things started moving fast. My inbox lit up. I had a church asking about a Sunday pop-up. A wedding planner wanted to collab on a dessert table. A school even emailed about a career day appearance like I was someone worth hearing from. And me? I kept my head down and kept baking. But Keith? He got loud. He started dropping shade on social media, nothing direct, just a bunch of some people can't handle competition and real chefs don't need gimmicks. Tiffany posted a reel of her twirling a mini apple pie and tagged it original recipe by us. I nearly threw my phone in a vat of buttermilk. Then one day, out of nowhere, I got a call from a woman named Veronica Mays, a freelance journalist who covered food culture for a couple local outlets and ran a decently followed blog called Bitter and Buttered. I stopped by the market, she said, and tried both your truck and Pie Kingdom. No contest, by the way, your stuff is phenomenal. I thanked her, suspicious as hell. I knew people sometimes wrote takedown articles for clicks. But here's the thing, she said. When I posted my little roundup, I got a DM from someone who said Pie Kingdom stole their entire concept from their ex. I said nothing. She continued, that wouldn't happen to be you, would it? I paused. Then asked, you want the polite version or the real one? Real. So I told her everything. No sob story. Just facts. The shared recipes. The notebook. The timeline. The savings I fronted. The logo sketch. The fact that South Carolina has no copyright protections for recipes unless you file them as trade secrets or include them in published material. The whole loophole Keith had slipped through like a rat in an open pantry. Veronica asked for receipts, text messages, dated photos, screenshots of my original recipe drafts. I had them all. I'd been quietly saving them since this mess began, like breadcrumbs through a forest of betrayal. She asked if I wanted the story public. Hell yes, I said. But I don't want a pity party. I want people to know the truth. What they choose to do with it is up to them. 2 weeks later, the piece went live. Baking Bad, the Pie Kingdom controversy no one wants to talk about. She didn't hold back. She laid out the timeline, the receipts, the shady switch up from business partner to co-owner overnight. She even quoted a local health official, off the record, who admitted Pie Kingdom's license paperwork looked rushed and incomplete. Turns out their commissary kitchen address didn't exist. I don't know if Keith got cocky, lazy, or both. But he hadn't secured a legitimate food safety prep space required under South Carolina law if you're handling anything perishable off-site. Veronica hinted that the DHEC was likely to investigate soon. And they did. The morning after the article dropped, I was elbow-deep in pecan glaze when Leona burst into the kitchen waving her phone. Girl, you need to see this. She turned it to me. A live stream. A whole live stream. Keith, red-faced and sweaty, arguing with the city inspector in front of Pie Kingdom's truck, trying to explain why his shared kitchen space was actually just a locked storage unit behind a vape shop. Tiffany? Crying. In a lawn chair. Mascara dripping like someone had punched a raccoon. The inspector slapped a temporarily closed sticker on their truck like a cherry on top. I didn't laugh. Not out loud, anyway. But I did text Veronica a thank you. And I turned back to my oven, the heat rising behind me, not from rage this time, but from justice served hot. There's a special kind of satisfaction that comes when someone writes you off, and the world writes them off right after. The day after Pie Kingdom got slapped with a closure notice, my phone turned into a slot machine. Every time I looked at it, ding ding ding, another notification. Texts, calls, DMs. Some from folks I hadn't spoken to since high school, suddenly wanting to collaborate. One guy I went on a single terrible date with messaged me, "Hey stranger, proud of you. Wanna catch up? Sir, you once told me sweet potato pie was too spicy. Go sit down." But the real kicker? A producer from Carolina Eats Local, this regional cooking show on public access that streams online and airs every Sunday afternoon. Think Great British Bake Off meets your auntie's backyard barbecue. They wanted to do a segment on local food truck heroes. And after Veronica's article, Sweet Deliverance was the name everyone was saying. They asked me to come on the show, share a recipe, talk about what I do. I agreed. With one condition. No gossip, I told them. I'll speak on my story. But I'm not out here to throw a tantrum for ratings. The host, a charming man named Daryl who wore suspenders and called everybody honey, assured me it would stay classy. But TV knows what it's doing. They filmed me in the commissary kitchen, walking through my signature peach crumble. I talked about my roots, my grandma's recipes, my mom's quiet strength, the years I'd spent working and dreaming in silence. They had me explain what sweet deliverance meant. It means salvation, I said, sprinkling cinnamon like it was sacred. Not just for me, but for anyone who's ever been told they're better off staying in the background. Then they played a voiceover recap of Veronica's article. Not naming names. But everyone watching knew. And then? They cut to B-roll footage of Pie Kingdom's truck being shuttered. The bright colors dulled. The banner curling in the wind like a sad party streamer. Tiffany stomping off screen while Keith argued with the inspector, gesturing wildly with a tray of untouched pie. I didn't know they'd gotten that footage. Public property, I guess. The show aired Sunday at 2 p.m. By 4:30, Sweet Deliverance had 2,000 new followers. By 6, I had a waiting list for orders that stretched into next month. Keith? Oh, he went online that night with one of those shaky, half-lit apology videos. Sat in his car, hair all disheveled, blaming haters and misunderstandings and insisting he was going to bounce back stronger. Tiffany wasn't in the passenger seat. Someone in the comments wrote, "Did your co-chef finally realize she can't bake clout?" I didn't reply. I didn't share it. I just kept making my pies. But that night, while I cleaned my kitchen, I lit a candle. Not for spite. For peace. Because the storm had passed. And baby, all that remained was clear sky and open road. The week after the show aired, I ran out of everything. I mean everything. Flour, butter, sugar, patience, Tupperware, labels, even business cards. I had to start printing those at home, using a busted Canon printer that wheezed like it had asthma. People weren't just ordering, they were pilgrimage ing. Some woman drove in from Augusta and said she'd seen the segment on her lunch break and told her boss, "I need to go meet this woman's crust." I don't even know what that means. By Thursday, I had local radio stations trying to interview me and one councilwoman who asked if I'd be willing to cater a city event. "I'm not a caterer," I said. "I'm just a woman with a hot oven and good hands." She winked. "That's all you need." And she was right. I doubled the kitchen hours. Leona helped me bring on a part-time teen named Maya, whose mom used to waitress with me at Doris's. She was clumsy with glaze, but had the energy of a border collie and took over my social media with memes and behind-the-scenes clips that got more traction than anything I'd posted in my life. She also asked, one morning while boxing pies, "Why don't you open a second truck?" I laughed. I can't even open the fridge right now without hitting a pie tin. But the seed was planted. The next week, I got an email from a woman named Judy Brewster. Said she was a small-time investor looking to back a local food venture with integrity, her word, not mine. I met her at a downtown cafe, expecting some stuffy money type in a blazer. Judy showed up in Converse, ordered black tea with honey, and said, "You remind me of myself 20 years ago. Except you got more fight." We talked numbers, expansion, licensing, and leasing a second food trailer, this one new, properly wrapped, and equipped with a double oven. I told her I'd think about it. Then I sat in my truck that night and cried for 20 minutes. Not from stress. From relief. Relief that I had done it. I had turned what was supposed to break me into bricks for my own empire. The second Sweet Deliverance truck rolled out in October. First stop, Benedict College Homecoming. We sold out in under 2 hours. I stood on the pavement, wiping sweat from my brow, watching Maya high-five some students as they walked off with red velvet cheesecake bites like they were currency. Keith? I hadn't heard from him since his video bombed. Tiffany had deleted all their joint accounts. Pie Kingdom was no longer listed on Yelp. But my favorite part? At that event, one of the students walked up, looked at my banner, and said, "I heard y'all are the real Pie Kingdom." I smiled, handed him a warm slice, and said, "Nah, baby. Pie Kingdom was a fairy tale. This," I pointed to the truck, "this is a rain. The thing about revenge is, it don't fill you up. It tastes good going down, don't get me wrong." Watching Keith's little pastry kingdom crumble in front of God and a county health inspector? Delicious. Seeing Tiffany run off in tears because the internet figured out her original crust recipe was a copy of mine, right down to the damn sprinkle of nutmeg? Chef's kiss. But after a while, you don't crave justice. You crave peace. And I was finally starting to get full on that. One slow Monday afternoon, the phone buzzed while I was restocking butter in the truck. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "Dina?" A voice I hadn't heard in months. "It's Keith." I could hear him breathing like the line itself weighed 50 pounds. He started slow. Said he'd seen the show. That he wasn't mad, that he respected the hustle. Then he got to it. "Tiffany's gone. Took most of the merch inventory and the business account. I'm kind of starting over." I leaned against the counter and let him ramble. He didn't apologize. He didn't say, I was wrong. He just said, maybe we could start something new. I've got ideas. We were always good together in the kitchen. I let that hang for a beat, then said, calmly, you taught me a lot, Keith. A pause. Hopeful silence. I continued, you taught me what happens when I let someone else run the stove while I'm still prepping the ingredients. He didn't get it. You mean? I mean I'm not building anything else for someone to steal. And I hung up. Later that week, Veronica called to tell me the Carolina Eats Local segment had been nominated for a regional broadcast award. They're considering a follow-up, she said. You up for it? I said yes, but only if I could tell it my way. Not the angry black woman trope, not the scorned ex-turned-baker. Just me, a woman who clawed her way out of someone else's shadow and baked her own light. They aired it on a Sunday, same time slot. Title, She Who Bakes Last. It blew up. Not viral, but real. Real people sharing their own stories. Women messaged me saying they'd finally left bad business partners. Folks emailed just to say thank you for reminding them their work mattered. I even got a letter in the mail, an actual letter from a woman in rural Alabama. She'd printed out the article and taped it to her fridge. Said it helped her press send on her LLC application after 20 years of hesitation. She ended it with, your story gave me back my apron. I kept that letter in my recipe book. Not because I need to remember what happened, but because I need to remember what came after. Because revenge? That's just the fire. But what you cook in it? That's what feeds you. 1 year later, I stood outside my new brick-and-mortar shop, Sweet Deliverance Bakehouse and Cafe, holding a pair of gold scissors while a crowd clapped and cheered like I'd just won the lottery. In a way, I had. The storefront sat in the heart of Columbia's historic district, with big bay windows, white and rose trim, and the smell of pecan praline and cinnamon sugar spilling out onto the sidewalk like incense for the hungry. Inside? Tiled floors, handwritten menus, soft jazz, fresh flowers on every table. Framed photos lined the walls, my mama in her church dress holding a peach cobbler, my grandma in her flour-dusted apron scowling at the camera, my first food truck, Sweet Deliverance, with its mismatched tires and hand-painted name. Right next to them, a photo of me, holding a pie, wearing a white button-up and a grin that could slice through glass. I'd made it, but more than that, I'd earned it. We opened the doors that day with a line stretching down the block. People from all over came out. College kids. Local judges. One sweet woman drove up from Savannah just to try the cornbread bread, pudding she'd seen on the follow-up show. The mayor showed up too. Gave a little speech about small business resilience and the spirit of entrepreneurship. I smiled, took a photo, and handed him a banana butter bar on the house. Y'all better eat that before your wife steals it, I said. He laughed like I was joking. I wasn't. That night, after we closed, I sat alone in the back office, just me and a warm piece of bourbon peach crumble, and wrote in my journal. Same one I'd used the night Keith launched Pie Kingdom without me. The one I'd cried into. Prayed into. On the first page, I crossed out what I'd written last year. Maybe I wasn't made for this. And replaced it with, no one else gets to decide what I'm made for. My phone buzzed. Text from Leona. Y'all trending again. Maya says don't read the comments unless you want to cry. I didn't. I knew what I needed to know. The shop was stable. My team was growing. I had interns from the culinary school and an offer from a regional distributor for a frozen pie line. But more than that, I had peace. Keith never resurfaced. Word was he tried to start a frozen hand pie business with some other girl, but it fizzled. He sent one last email, no hard feelings. I deleted it. Tiffany went back to doing makeup tutorials online. She still tags random baked goods in her selfies like she had anything to do with them. I let her. That's her cross to carry. Me? I stopped carrying other people's crosses years ago. Now I carry crust, filling, real butter, and receipts. Every day, people walk into my cafe for something sweet. Some of them know the story. Most don't. That's okay, because the story wasn't about them. It was about me reclaiming what was mine. And baby, I did more than reclaim it. I made it rise. Today, I wrote in my journal, I sat at my own table. I baked it, built it, served it, and no one will ever pull the chair out from under me again.